God is unfair because He grades on a curve. You all been to high school, right? You remember the curve? Saved us sometimes, didn't it? At least it saved me sometimes. So the curve, remember the bell curve, okay? So you'll have some students who get the 99 or 100, and you get the one that gets the 56, right? Or the 60. And so the teacher tries to get most of them underneath the bell curve and not be at either end. And they usually do that by throwing in some extra points and shifting it a little bit. Well, of course, I think like in today's gospel, those students that busted their tushies trying to do really good on the exam and got the A, I think would feel a little slighted by those who pulled a 60 and all of a sudden now they got a 75. They'd feel a little cheated because they put the work in and got the right results, and those that maybe didn't work so hard didn't get the results, and here they're getting, instead of an F, they're getting a C. The message that's going on in today's gospel is the generosity of God. How God is so generous. He is unfair. He's unfair because His laws of justice do not follow our definition of justice. Just to give you an example, when we talk about justice, minimal goodness is justice. Giving one what is due. Minimal goodness. Maximal goodness is love. So God chose to be just to those workers who started in the morning and to be generous, maximally good, loving to those who just worked 1 hour. I think it's important that the understanding of the denarius, the daily wage, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, quite interesting that in heaven, the result of that, this wage, the yield from that wage, is not dependent on the monetary value of that denarius, but is dependent on the virtue of the individual receiving the denarius. St. Augustine said, we are only able to receive what we are able to receive. The receiver is only able to receive what the receiver is capable of receiving. That's a tongue twister, but basically your antenna's got to be up. We have to be in that state of grace. The other dynamic going on is that those who started early in the day came to the landowner with a contractual arrangement, not a communal arrangement, one of love. I come to be with God because I want to be with God, not because it's what I'm supposed to do. There's a big difference. The legalism that we as Catholics sometimes get accused of, they are those contractual workers that started in the morning. God's ways are not our ways, as we heard in Isaiah. As a matter of fact, it's interesting that right before those verses that we heard today from Isaiah, it was written that welcome are those who are poor and hungry and thirsty. We are the poor and the hungry and the thirsty, who are thirsting and hungering to be in communion with God. The Lord hears all who are near to Him. That's us. The Lord hears us. He knows our pains. He knows what's going on inside of our hearts and our souls, what are our struggles. He knows all that. And you heard St. Paul to the Romans, I want to give God fruitful labor in the vineyard. Where's that vineyard? The church and the world. That's the vineyard. That's where we are not to remain idle. We are to be working, doing God's work constantly. That's what we're about. That's the call of our baptism. When we were marked as Christian, our souls took on that permanent character. We're marked as Christians. And we must be busy about the work of God, always, not just on Sundays. Fruitful labor in the vineyard. And we should also be able to say, to live is Christ and to die is gain. It's a win-win. It doesn't matter whether we're here or our bodies are dead, because when our bodies are dead, our souls are with Him. It's a win-win. God is unfair. He's unfair because He goes overboard with His generosity. He doesn't fit into our definition, as I said. So He's unfair. And at the Mass, what happens? What happened on the first Calvary? What's called the Great Exchange. The Great Exchange, the innocent, loving, pure God now takes on our sins. And what do we get? We get His righteousness. That's unfair. God is getting the short end of the deal on that one. God is generous. His ways are not our ways. And so at this Mass and at every Mass, on this altar, Calvary will be represented, and that great exchange will be made available to us again. Let us make sure that we are not idle. Make sure that we're busy about doing God's work. And let us all ask ourselves this question: what do I bring to the table?